Welcome to the High Ticket Online Courses podcast. My name is Larry Peacock, and I'm so excited to have Sarah Cordner here with me today. How are you doing, Sarah?
Hello, Larry. Hi, everyone listening. It's wonderful to be here today.
Thank you so much. It's quite an honor to have you, Sarah. And as we were just talking a little bit before we started this podcast, I'm in Sarah's Concept to Course program, and I have been in this digital marketing game for a few years. More at a learning platform, and Sarah has a wealth of knowledge, a huge body of work, and is one of the most impressive course creating teachers that I've ever seen. So it's a super honor to interview you, Sarah. And if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Larry. It has been wonderful working alongside you and watching this empire that you're creating. I must admit, hats off to you. You have very rapidly built yourself a community of people who are clearly interested in learning about how they can grow and get their message out to the world as well. So kudos to you. This whole field is about encouraging ourselves and encouraging other people to see that they have a whole wealth of knowledge, of skills, of life experiences inside of them that other people would love to know about, would love to learn from, and would love to get your tips and advice on. And I truly believe that every single person is capable of sharing something that could change somebody's life. And so, that's why we're all here today listening. So my name's Sarah Cordner, and I genuinely believe that everyone and anyone has the potential to change somebody else's life. I started off as a gypsy girl where education was prohibited for young women, and have now gone on to become the record holder for being the youngest university executive director and head of campus in the whole of Australian history. And so as somebody who has gone from, not being allowed to be educated at all to going and running a university in a country they weren't even born in, I can guarantee you that within us there is all a set of skills that we can tap into, we can find, and we can share with others in a way that not will only change our lives, but those of others too. And so I started my business at the wise old age of 18, and I now have an online education empire. I like to use that word because it's something I built myself. Currently have, I think we've just tipped 80,000 enrollments in 168 countries right now, currently studying my programs. And I do it all from my spare bedroom with 2 young children and just a whole load of ambition.
That's amazing. And again, maybe you could talk briefly about the Edupreneur Academy. When you're in that and you open it up, it's just overwhelming. But can you talk a little bit about why you created that?
Yeah, so I think within all of us, we all have heaps of different things that we can teach. And one of the things that I find as a course creation specialist and coach is that a lot of people come to me and their biggest thing is not, what do I create a course about? Their biggest thing is, which one of my millions of ideas do I start with first? Because everyone, if we're an adult, we've probably done a heap of different things in our lives. And there's so much stuff you could probably teach. It's picking which one to go with first. And I was very much the same. I started my career, I'm a qualified teacher trainer. I'm a qualified training professional. And so my business first began servicing corporate organizations and governments. So I was going out there and I had staff. We were delivering everything from leadership training to communication skills to how to write a CV, you name it. We had one of these courses that we were delivering inside the business. So I took upon myself to be the writer of the content as a qualified curriculum developer, and then hired trainers to go and deliver them to these organizations. And basically my business was going really, really well, 7-figure business. We were running multiple contracts for government and organisations. And I think it was late 2014, all of a sudden the economy in Western Australia, where I'm based, crashed, and we lost $2.7 million in a single Tuesday morning. And I suddenly realised that there were 23 employees that I wasn't going to be able to continue paying anymore as a result. And my business was facing administration. I literally went from a millionaire to $1 million in debt in a day. And thought, well, what am I going to do? And this is where I thought, well, look, we're good at what we do. We've been making a lot of money from what we do. We've have nothing but 5-star reviews from our clients for what we do. I just need to find a different way of doing it rather than giving up completely. And that's where I realized, we've been focusing on a local economy in our state. And I went, well, how can we start doing this for people all over the world so that I'm not depending on one particular economy? Well, why don't I go online? And so I thought, well, what are these things am I going to pick? So at first, I just started putting all of our corporate training online. And some of those remnants are left in the Edupreneur Academy to this day. There's training on how to go and get employment. There's training on leadership, and there's training on presentation skills for corporates and things like that in there. And so I started building up all these random programs that didn't really target anyone in particular. So I just started throwing them all into my online school, and all of a sudden grew the business by 60% instead of going into administration, made a huge amount more money than I was making beforehand, all because I went online. And to boot, I reduced my overheads dramatically because I no longer had staff to pay to run these training programs because it was all just online. And that's when people started saying to me, you know, Sarah, you're a qualified education developer. You've created, you know, I created over 60 programs within the space of 12 months because I had a baby deadline. Baby being born, quick run. And so people started saying, how did you go from turning this face-to-face content into an online version? And boom, that's when I went, well, I need to create a program about how I create programs, which is actually what I was qualified in, funnily enough, as a qualified curriculum developer. It wasn't leadership I was an expert in, it was creating programs. And so that's where How to Create Profitable Online Courses was born. And people came into that and said, right, well, now I have a course. How do I market it? How do I create automated email sequences? Now I want to be an author, all these things that I've done. And so I thought, well, why not just open up a whole academy that now allows me to have the freedom to create anything that I want to create, and allows other people, you know, like yourselves, to jump in there and have access to all of that stuff that they might want to cherry pick as they go along.
That's incredible. And again, I'm, you know, I get into there and it is a bit over, I mean, it's just a lot. And I also wanted to talk about the books. You have quite a number of books that you've written. And can you talk a little bit about your process in doing that?
Yeah, so not many years ago, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, you know, I'd always had this dream to become a published author. I've always loved to write, and that dream, that passion was there. It's yet another medium by which we can go and share our knowledge of the world and help people. And I now have 12 published books, and 5 of those have been international #1 bestsellers. And the biggest tip I have for you guys is that it's not as hard as you think. In fact, all I simply did is figured out what questions are people asking. You know, when they go into Amazon, they go onto Google, what is it that they're typing in there to get the answer to? And you can use a lot of different tools to find out what those questions are. And I simply just wrote down the questions on an A4 sheet of paper and answered them all. That's it. Yeah. So each subheading was just a question, and I put the answer. Subheading was a question, I put the answer. And before I knew it, this was going to be, my first book was going to be a blog post. And so, you know, you may have seen these blog posts that are like 10 ways to lose weight, 15 ways to be happier. Well, I just came up with like 25 questions, and I wrote an answer to them where the answer was 2 pages each, 50 A4 pages. By the time you formatted that, it goes up to about 90. Boom, I had a book. Yeah. And guys, it really is as simple as saving it as a PDF, going to kdp.com, which is Kindle's publishing platform, and uploading the document. And within 24 hours, you're published. And if you get enough people buy that book within a 1-hour period, which is how often Amazon updates its bestseller rankings, boom, you're a bestseller as well to boot. And I know that sounds like a simplified way of putting it, but genuinely that is the process. Yeah, and it can, I mean, obviously you've been able to do it. When I was in the course, one thing, that was one of the key takeaways or kind of aha moments. And I did that. I went on to YouTube. So I'm really interested in online courses and online course creation. And here I'm talking to the queen of it. And so I did what you told me to do. And I went to YouTube and I typed online courses and I looked at what was the keyword, the tail keywords. And I did that for YouTube. I did it for Google. I did it for Answer the Public. I printed off the spreadsheet, and there you go. There's my modules, my courses, my lessons. It's all there. And what's so what's unique about it is I'm literally, as you said, I'm answering the questions that people are asking. So you're giving them what they want. And so for the course creators that are listening, that's all you need to do, right? Go into that Google, YouTube, answerthepublic.com, write that down if you don't know what that is, and check it out. It's amazing. And that's how you create an online course. You're literally giving them what they're asking for. I just think that was my key takeaway from that entire thing. The other thing that I wanted to talk about
what I'm really interested, this is a selfish statement or a selfish question for me, is what is your, how does your work day, your work day break down, and also how's your work week break down? I'm really curious about that.
It's a very commonly asked question. A lot of people, like you mentioned, like look at the content I've created. I mean, you go on my blog and there are over 400 plus blog articles up there. And I don't write short form. They are long form blog articles with very detailed step-by-step instructions. You know, YouTube, there's hundreds of my videos on YouTube. 12 published books. I have over 60 plus online courses in the academy. There's a challenge running every single month. There's a coaching program running every single month. I'm pumping out services and creating other people's schools for them. And so a lot of people go, I'm one person. I'm a mum. I'm often a single mum. I'm not a single mum, but I often feel like a single mum because my police officer husband is always at work. And I have no family where I live. So people kind of go, how do you do it all? And the truth is, it's taken me 14 years to do all of that stuff. So some people who are beginning, they kind of go, they compare their day one to my year 14 and they kind of go, how do I have all of that now? The truth is, you can't have it now. I'm just 14 years ahead of you. And if you keep doing the right things regularly, you will also have that amount of content and that legacy that you've created as well in the world in 14 years time too. But for me, it's very much about batching your time and focusing predominantly on what, Jim Collins calls the big, hairy, audacious goal. What are your goals? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And I get really specific about this. How many students do I want to have by the 31st of December this year? How much money do I want to have turned over by the 31st of December this year? How much of my stuff and how many numbers of items of my stuff at what price do I need to sell in order to make that amount of sales by the end of the year? And so I calculate all of that up and then I go, what will be the one focus I have this year? So for example, just to give you an example, I have 60 plus different courses, all these books, all these services, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't have many different goals for those. I have one goal and I go, this year, I'm going to focus on my Edupreneur Academy. So, but this year I want to have X number of customers in my Edupreneur Academy. Now, my whole then system I set up behind the scenes is all about flowing people in there. How many prospects will I need to get if my conversion rate is X in order to then take them to getting that number of results? That's the first thing I work on. And I revisit that every single month. Every single month I go into my progress tracking sheet and I go, how many students have we got right now? How much money are we making right now? What is the profit right now? Am I selling enough items of X to get X number of people in there? Every single month we check this. I go into the quoting system and I check the conversion rates. Are we hitting an X% conversion rate or not? How far off are we from that? So that's the first thing we do, because that is then what guides what you have to do every day. It guides whether you are creating content. If your goal is to create an academy in the first place, well, then your number one thing you need to be working on right now is actually creating content for the academy. You don't have anything to sell if you don't have the content. So then I would be spending my time in that situation going, right, well, 50% of my day, at least, go look at that 80-20 rule. I would even say 80% of my day for the next 4 weeks would need to be spent on creating the actual course content. I need to be in the studio filming 80% of every single day. That's what the calendar would look like. If it's the other way around, you've created your content, but you don't have anyone in it, well, then 80% of your day needs to be spent on marketing activity. And for me, marketing isn't like randomly chucking everything everywhere and hoping something sticks. It's about getting people into my email marketing database. How do I do that? One lead magnet. Not a webinar over here, Facebook ads over there, a free ebook over here. I don't know, let's do a quick shotgun workshop over here, right? Create one lead magnet. And I focus on how can I make that lead magnet go everywhere so that I have one lead, bunch of people coming in there and leading into the path I need them to go. So for me, and the space that I'm at in my business, that will obviously change each month as I go through more sales, more conversions, more growth. Then we have to go into more staff. So then it focuses on how do I create more systems so I can create more people so that I can keep getting bigger. It's a cycle, right? For me, I focus very much on being extremely strict with my time. And I have even 15-minute increments blocked in my calendar for like a toilet break. Right? This is how strict I am, right? So I make sure that I don't do, I try not to do any more than 3 hours of client calls a day, because when you're on a client call, yep, you might be getting paid for that hour or that 3 hours that you're doing. You're being taken away from the overall objective, whether it's creating the content, the marketing, or the systems for the staff, right? So, you know, it's not as important as all the other stuff. So I'm no more than 3 hours a day if I can on client calls. And then from there, it's really, really blocked. So I'll go this 3 hours, I'm going to be working on the next concept course group coaching program. This block of time, I'm going to be working on the funnel for the next round of Facebook ads that go from the lead magnet through to the upsells and so on. And so that's exactly how I do it. I also have a very strict rule of absolutely no clients on a Friday. So normally Friday morning will be, you know, just catching up with admin, closing the week, any sort of emails that my team couldn't deal with, that only I could do, those kinds of things get done at the end of the week. Why? Because that stuff is less important. I know it sounds like a crazy thing to say. It's less important than the content that people are actually paying for and the systems and the structure that only you can do. Friday afternoons, guys, 100% rule, fun.
Yeah.
Always fun. While my kids are still at school and daycare, those last few hours of a Friday afternoon is for me. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's literally just sitting outside and having a glass of wine by myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it was fun when we first came in. I don't know if you remember this, because you have thousands of students. But anyway, when you first came in, so I played basketball in Australia. I played against the SBL in Perth, Australia, and then on the other side in Sydney, Australia. And this was like 20 years ago, but yeah, I'll just never forget that. So when I first met you, but you're from the United Kingdom, is that correct?
Originally from the UK, yeah. So I've been living in Australia for I think 11 years. 11 years.
Yeah, now. Absolutely. So that's great. Yeah, it's super exciting. It's just such an honor to interview you and to learn about this process. When you're talking about your structure, but right now, how many hours a day are you putting into doing this?
Well, prior to recently, just like most entrepreneurs, when I first began, I have to admit that I was doing the whole, 16+ hour day hustles. It was hard. I was highly ambitious, and I loved it. And none of it ever felt hard to me. I literally have always loved working. I get a huge buzz out of it and a huge sense of fulfillment from it. But I have two very small little children at the moment. One is 4 and one has literally just turned 1 at the time of recording this. And so that makes things quite challenging. So at the moment, to be honest, I barely work more than tend to not go on past 2-3 p.m. in the afternoon, because obviously that's when we have to go and get children and things like that over here in Australia. So for me, that means that, like, go back to that kind of Parkinson's law, the less time you have to do something, the more time you get done, because you become even more strict about what's really necessary. And I think with entrepreneurs, we're so excited. We, a lot of people, we see these shiny things and, oh, that's exciting, all this software. We get, like, our attention gets distracted so easily with all of these cool things that, yes, would be cool to do. But I'm like, if it literally comes down to whether you're going to eat tomorrow or not, do I really need to do this task right now? Do I really need to play with this thing right now? Do I need to fiddle with this tool right now? And really, you see what becomes important. What is it that's going to make the difference between you eating next week or not? And usually it comes down to, have I created the content? Have I put that content that's available for people to buy in front of enough people? And that's it. That is it. Wow. That's the 90% of our business.
That's impressive. Sarah, I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So we're in the kind of the same boat. Yeah. And right now I'm in the podcast Profit Lab by a fellow named Jamie Atkinson. And so I'm really focused on right now, just in particular, launching this podcast and having a great launch on February 15th. So I'm really excited about it. And then moving forward, I'm going to go back to concept to course and rework that and the things that I've learned and kind of move forward with that. So anyway, I just asked that because I have 2 small children, so I was always just wondering, like, man, how is she getting this stuff done? So
it's pretty fun. We have as well, Wednesday afternoon we have set for content creation time, and we have this rule. I've got people smashing down my door going like, I'll pay you triple your rate if I can squeeze in on Wednesday. I'm like, nope, sorry, busy. Like, that time is allocated for content. Why? Because 90% of my business comes in from content.
Yep.
Blog posts I wrote 7 years ago are still coming up in people's Google search results and leading them into my business and getting them to spend their money with me. So I'm like, you know, there is no call, even if that person paid me $20,000 for that 1 hour call, you know I could spend that few hours instead creating 10 pieces of content that are going to make me hundreds of thousands of dollars down the line. Yep. Right. So this is the thing we have to kind of weigh up. Are you spending your money, you're spending your time on the right things? And we can get distracted very easily by this. Oh, but someone's happy to pay me $100 for an hour call. Is it really worth $100? Really?
Yeah.
Build your thing instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, you know, you dial it down to 15-minute increments. So does Jeff Bezos, and so does Mark Zuckerberg. They dial their timeline, their calendar. I mean, time is very crucial. So it's kind of funny that you say that, because that's what some of these top CEOs are doing as well.
Yeah, it's so important. So important.
Absolutely. And I just had a quick question for learning. Do you recommend for a beta program? Do you recommend teaching with the people right away with them, and then boom, there's the content, rather than going back, you know, or pre-recording the content and then giving it to the beta people? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. And I always say it depends on the actual course creator's personal preference themselves. Some people get so completely overwhelmed and sucked into perfection freeze when they're trying to pre-record content. Like, you know, like I have to get a script, I have to read it perfectly, it has to be the right kind of content. And they end up not creating their courses at all, because they just get stuck in this never-ending cycle of, have I done it right? Is it perfect? So those kinds of people, I'm like, hey, how about you just put on a Zoom room and you answer people's questions in a Zoom room once a week or 2 times a week, record it and chuck that up in an online academy. Because if it answers the questions, now you've done it, you've got it done. There's no more perfection. Later on, you can go back and go, wow, that answer came out really, really well, because it was on the fly, you know? You can go and then refilm that in all the perfect style if you want to afterwards. But for the sake of getting version 1 of something out there, going live with people in the room and just recording it is a really good first step.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Sarah. And where can they learn more about you?
If you want to just go to sarahcordner.com, there's a whole range of information in there, everything from my Course Creators podcast to hundreds of blogs and my free course creation starter kit at sarahcordner.com/starter kit, which takes you through the 10 major steps of creating your own online courses, programs, or academies. And I guess if I could just leave everyone with one thing is, you know, you can't create something perfect tomorrow, but you do have to start with version 1. You know, so go out there, create something, anything. You have to get your first people through it to work out whether it's the right thing or not. And the truth is, your courses are constantly being updated. I'm just in the process of literally refilming heaps of my online courses, because the world changes, new techniques come along, you get different questions and different audiences come through. And that's the whole fun of the creative journey. There is a system, there is a step-by-step process to follow if you want to create an amazing program. But more importantly, remember that people are coming to you of all of the other options out there because of your personality, your style, your unique character, your way of seeing it, your way of explaining it. And the only way you're going to start bringing people to you is if you just start putting it out there. So just be brave, have some courage, because, you know, you're not going to change anyone else's life at all if it all stays locked up in your brain.
That's great. That's phenomenal. Again, thank you so much for coming, Sarah. I really appreciate it. To my course creators and listeners that are here on the podcast, go to sarahcordner.com and get that free starter kit for course creation, and that'll get you going. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Larry. Bye for now.